Welcome to City Talk, the program where we try to figure out what all these people are doing. And by all these people, I mean all of these people who work for the city of Pittsburgh, including Officer Victoria Butch. She's a community resource officer. Officer Vicky, welcome to Night Talk. I'm sorry, welcome to City Talk.
Thank you for having me.
It's a show I used to do a long time ago. So good to have you. You're working from home today, I assume?
I am, yes.
So what is a community resource officer? Tell us about your job.
So a community resource officer works as a liaison between the police and the community. And I had worked for Parks and Recreation for 18 years before I became a police officer. And I did much of that same work with the community there, act as a liaison between the community and the city for, certain needs, concerns, all that good stuff. We go to community meetings, we give them crime stats, we take their concerns back to, like, say, the commander of zone. I work at Zone 4 in Squirrel Hill. And we discuss those concerns and we try to make a plan to help with those concerns.
But it must be pretty effective, I'm assuming, in terms of police and community relations, with you meeting them for this specific purpose, getting to know them, gathering those statistics and making it pretty personal in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like if you know the police officer that's in your community, the police officers, not just one, you're more likely to go to them for trouble or something that's bothering them, something, maybe information, crime tips that they have that maybe they're a little apprehensive about giving to just anybody else. But if they know you and have a relationship with you, then they feel more comfortable in coming with you and sharing those things with you and trusting you. And trust goes a big way in our community right now. We don't have a lot of it, and we're working on building that back.
I was going to say, can it be difficult at times to establish trust initially? I mean, how do you break through?
One of the things that we deal with that is hard is that if something happens nationwide, police officers, and I will say there are bad police. There's bad in every field. You have good doctors, you have bad doctors, you have good teachers, bad teachers. But when something happens nationwide, we feel the impact of it. We are that face. So then it's like starting back at square one. Okay, somebody did something that they shouldn't have done, and then we got to start back building those relationships and letting them know that we're not like that. You don't have that experience with us. Give us a fair chance. I always say when I go to a call and somebody says, I don't trust the police, and I say, have you ever dealt with me before? And usually they say no. And I said, well, then give me a chance. Let me see if I can help you. And if you feel the same way afterwards, then you do. Then I really can't do anything about that. But give me a chance to see.
By the way, I can confirm for you, there are also all sorts of horrible broadcasters, just terrible people, awful people. Yeah, I didn't want us to be exempt from the Bad Apple Club. Yeah. So does it help that you're a woman?
I think it can. In certain situations, I do believe it can be. I think it can be a calming effect. Like as if some. And it depends what situation it is. Now, if you're in a domestic situation and it is the typical domestic where it's a male against a female, because they're not all that, and the man doesn't have respect for a woman to begin with, you're not going to be the person that comes in and sues it all normally. Now, if it's somebody that respects, like, their mother or their grandmother, or raised by their grandmother, then they seem to tend to respond to a woman a little differently. So then you can be that common factor. Like, you calm the situation down. It really does depend. I do think more than not, we do have that ability to calm it.
Interesting. So I'll ask you some personal. Yes. Yeah. Where are you from originally?
I grew up on the north side of Pittsburgh.
I'm speaking to you from the north side as we speak.
Okay.
In my crummy little apartment. And how was that growing up in the north side, in the area in which you grew up?
I think growing up, I was always very ashamed because we were poor, and I went to Catholic school for grade school and high school, and you're around a lot of people with different backgrounds. So I tended to be a little ashamed of how I grew up then, but now I'm so happy that I grew up the way I am. I think I respect people a lot more. I see things from a different point of view that I think helps with what I do for a living. So I'm thankful for it. I'm thankful for the struggles. I'm thankful for what I grew up around. I'm thankful that I grew up around, people that didn't make it out, and that just shows how strong of a person you can be. That, when I go on a call and somebody says, well, you don't understand how I grew up. no, I do actually understand how you grew up, and everybody has a choice of making a difference and changing your life path. So, and then I try to encourage, steps along the way and how I did it. So
All right. And then where did you go to school?
I went to St. Peter's on the north side, and then I went to North Catholic when they were up in Troy Hill.
And after graduation, was that when you somehow got the job at Parks and Rec?
I did. So while I was going through school, I went to La Roche for a year, and then I went to Chatham University. And I was working for Parks and Rec while I was going through school, and I loved it so much. I was pre-med actually for school.
Oh, no kidding.
Yes. Yeah.
What changed your mind?
Money. You know what? It was really expensive to continue to go on, and being around the kids. I knew I love being around the kids and making a difference. In Parks and Recreation, you actually wear more than one hat. You're wearing about 10 different hats. And I will always give those guys a shout out when I can, because, they're counselors, they're, they fill in as parents, they're friends, they're teachers, they're, everything. They wear so many hats, and they're such unique people.
Yeah. And they run the senior centers, as you know, which allow for a lot of bonding and good community meetings for various members of the community who are obviously seniors. Yeah. So yeah, they do wear many hats. My first job was for Parks and Rec here before I switched over to the Department of Innovation and Performance. At what point did you think, you know what, I really like Parks and Rec? I must, because I've been here for 18 years, but maybe a slight career change might be interesting.
Well, I think always in the back of my head, I had experience with police when I was a child, and without getting into so much detail, but it was a scary situation when the police came. I just was so happy, and I wasn't scared for the first time in a long time. So, that was always in the back of my head. I don't want any kid to ever feel that way. So I know I tend on a call, if there's kids involved, I go right to the kids and make sure that they're okay. Because, our kids, you don't want them to be afraid either way, afraid of us or afraid of what's going on. You want them to know that there's help somewhere. So, and whenever the police came, it was 6 females, all female bunch. It was right when they did the big hiring for women. And so we had 6 women come in, and they were tough as nails. So that was very, that was a good thing. Gave me a little bit of inspiration there to be a little tougher. And yeah.
That's interesting. As you know, when they talk about the so-called reform of police departments, they say, well, maybe we shouldn't send officers to all the domestics or social situations. Maybe we should send a counselor of some sort. It sounds like you often act in that role right now.
Well,
in other words, one step, something in between a guy who might slap the cuffs on you and the opposite.
Right. And I think most officers do. It's just, everything we do is in a split second. For the most part, we don't have that time to sit down and talk and
who should we send? Let's talk about it for 20 minutes. Yeah. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So it is difficult in that sense that we don't have the time to do that. And I get where people are coming from, where they say about sending social workers in. And I believe in certain situations that could be good, or the afterthought. Sometimes somebody needs to be arrested for that, that thing to be taken care of. That has to stop at that point. And then we come in with all these other resources. I've arrested a lot of people that have mental health issues, only because at the time there's no talking. And like you said, we don't get that. We can't have a diagnosis session. But afterwards, knowing that they had issues, then we go through mental health court. And then, the penalties and all that stuff isn't as high at all. If they do what they're supposed to do, it actually gets wiped away. So we do take that into consideration. It's just certain times it can't. I mean, I know everybody would like us to, have an hour worth of time with somebody to figure out what their intentions are, but we just don't have it.
And what do you think of the young people joining the force today? Do you notice any difference between your era's generation and the current one?
Yes. Our young guys are very enthusiastic, and they want to get out there, and they do want to make a change. The one thing though that drives me absolutely crazy is we are such a community of texting, and they don't ever talk face to face. So I think we're lacking in that, and I think that's where the community aspect of it fails on that end, because these young officers are coming out and they don't know how to carry a conversation. They're used to just texting and stuff, and I think that's something we definitely got to work on. I know the chief and I had many conversations on this about like getting even the young guys out there doing some of the park and walks that we're doing as community resource officers. It's invaluable talking with people and hearing them and carrying a conversation.
It never occurred to me that the texting generation would result in the need to teach people to talk. I never thought of that.
Yeah. And not all. And I hate to be like that. You know, I'm the nagging older lady on the job now, but my son's probably cringing listening to the conversation. But you know, I just think in general, and if it was something that I needed to work on, well, I need to work on all the tech stuff, you know, all the new tech stuff that I don't use. There you go. That would help me be a better officer for that kind of stuff. So you know, I think on both ends, you never stop learning. I say on this job, you can have 30 years on this job and you will still learn something new every day. Somebody will teach you something.
Well, at least you and I, with some help, were able to get on this Zoom call today, and I'm no spring chicken either.
I had to go back and forth like a couple of times. I will admit that.
Oh, is that right? Yeah.
Well, I forgot the code. I forgot that you need the code.
I guess what I'm saying is you're right. Some people can't talk. Other people aren't great with technology. So,
right. So
you're absolutely right. Do you have a little bit more leeway to pick and choose the longer you've been with the force?
Well, not if it's something they send you to, you just get picked and you send. Although they do usually go by seniority, so I'm up there a little bit now. But like all hands on deck stuff, you know,
No, I understand.
Yeah. So, but you know, details and stuff that you choose to work, you know, that definitely I really pick and choose those ones.
Oh yeah, what kinds of things are there that might come your way?
Like the Jewish Federation will do like weddings for them or bar mitzvahs and stuff like that. We'll do that kind of stuff, which, you know, I love working with the Jewish community. I never have any issues and they're just wonderful people. So it's always good to do that. We'll do zoo details. We have that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Zoo details?
Yeah, whenever they do any other functions or whatever, they'll hire some security, you know, police off duty. So
Do we live in a world where there's a lot more need for security at events that maybe 10, 20 years ago there wouldn't have been?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, it's a shame, but that is the world we live in today. So.
Are you still a North Sider, Officer Vicky?
No, I moved to Greenfield. That's actually my first like full-time recreation job was at the McGee Recreation Center, and I met my ex-husband there, and he grew up in Greenfield, so we moved to Greenfield, and I stayed, and still best friends with my ex-husband. So no.
Well, that's all. Yes, it beats the alternative in my opinion. So good for you.
Right, absolutely. Yes.
How have you been coping with COVID?
You know what? I think, you know, as essential workers, I don't think we have seen it as or felt it as bad as others because we're out there. We still get to communicate and you still get that adult one-on-one conversation in person, not on text so I don't think I felt it as bad. My son, I feel bad for him. You know, the sports that, you know, went downhill from there. Like
how old's he?
He's 17 now.
Okay.
He's a junior. So, you know, he doesn't get to see his friends as much. So that's hard. But I don't think it's been bad. I'm not such, even though I do a lot with people and I work Parks and Recreation, I'm not a people-y kind of person. I actually love being home or doing, you know, I camp, I kayak, that kind of stuff. I like that, you know, one-on-one retreat stuff. So, so I actually don't mind the whole not seeing a whole bunch of people.
But I imagine your son is, as you point out, very anxious to get back out into the world.
Yes, he is absolutely. His school has actually been in for pretty much the whole time, but he broke his leg pretty bad, so he's been off and home. So
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, he skiing first time.
Oh, okay.
Skiing. Yeah, first time skiing. He didn't wait for mom because that's not cool to go with mom. So he went with his friends and he went down a hill with the moguls for his second time down the hill.
So it might be his last time skiing.
Right. Yeah. He says no. He'd like to get out there again. So I don't know. It would be my last time skiing.
I went on a school skiing trip when I was 16, and I just mastered the baby slope. And then a friend who thought it was being funny brought me to the most advanced slope, and I did a somersault and broke the ski and hobbled away. And it was my last time skiing. So I feel your pain.
Yeah. Oh.
Would you recommend a career in law enforcement to the average human out there, or maybe the above average human? I don't know.
I don't know. So I always put it in terms of what would I tell my son to do? And I don't know that I would right now. I think it's a very hard field to be in right now. These young kids coming out, I feel bad. I mean, they don't know what police work was like, even when the Tree of Life happened. Some of them are just so new that they weren't even here for that. And they don't know what the community was like after that. All they see is negativity all the time. And it does wear on you. I had a conversation with my son the other day about it, just sad that, we go out and I have all the best intentions at heart. 28 years, I've never have one right up against me with all my years with the city. My heart's definitely in the right place. I absolutely do feel like I'm helping people. I want to help people. And for people to absolutely hate you because of the uniform you wear is very hard. It's, I have pretty thick skin from doing this job and that for years, but it's very hard. And I'm not saying it's any easier on the other side. I'm not saying that at all. It's just we have to come together and realize that, we're hurting each other, and together we're stronger.
So I'll broaden the scope. Would you recommend a career in government service, since you've also worked in other areas of government?
Yes. I mean, you need it. You need good people. If I shouldn't say not to do it, because we need people that really want to do it, not do it for the wrong reasons. I always say there's that kid that was picked on in high school that becomes a cop, and you never want that. So you want people to be in it for the right reasons, to really want to help and do good. And so, I should say yes. So, we do need more helpers. What's Mr. Rogers, all the helpers, go to the helpers. So.
Yeah. So have you been limited in I take it that during normal times you'd be around the neighborhood knocking on doors a lot. Maybe during COVID, people didn't necessarily want their doors knocked on. Will that change back to the way it used to be?
We just started doing our neighborhood walks again. Well, not again, it's a new initiative where we're going into these neighborhoods, all the community resource officers together. We pick so many different walks for the week, and it's usually 2 a day. And then we just go and we hit that neighborhood and like 2 at a time. Like, so we're not in like a large group, because then everybody's like, what's going on here? What happened? So usually 2 at a time. And then we just go and we just shake hands, go into businesses. And usually I have the dog with me.
Tell us about the dog.
So Zane is a golden retriever. He's actually sick today too. He has a respiratory.
I'm so sorry to hear that. Okay.
I know we're a wreck here. But he's a golden retriever, and ideal for Zane came after the Tree of Life. We brought in canine first responders from another city. They volunteered to come in, and what they did was sit in, like, before any of our debriefings we had with our officers. They would bring the dogs in, they would pet the dogs, they'd get relaxed, and then they would go in and have a debriefing. And to my surprise, because I was not for it at all, honestly, and I love dogs. I know how my dog I feel about my dog, but when the ideal came about, I was like, that's crazy. The SWAT guys are going to roll on the floor with the dogs, and then they're going to tell us all their feelings. Okay, that's how I was. And I but then after it, I saw that it's not that, it's not the answer to what's going on. It's just an icebreaker, just something else to like make somebody feel a little at ease. And then we can, I have training in
and this is when you're dealing with fellow officers as opposed to members of the community for the dog, correct?
Yeah, and the dog can be used for both, though.
Oh, okay.
But with the officers, then we're all critically incident trained. Our whole peer support team that we have are trained for that. So then we're able to look at signs and like symptoms of what's going on with somebody. Maybe they're not saying that they're having issues, but we see it because, here they are, they're petting the dog, their guard goes down, and you can notice some things. And then we follow up with them and say, hey, let's see how we can help you with this. Maybe you're not, getting through as much as you think you are, because everybody thinks they're fine until they're not fine. Police officers have a long history of, having a few extra drinks or a few extra girlfriends or whatever. Sad to say, I mean, we're a lot better now because we actually do talk about the things, these everyday things that build up. I call it the cumulative trauma. I refer to it as a paper bag where you throw things in your whole career. The bigger stuff's at the bottom, you think, And then an apple at the top of the bag rips the whole bag open, and you don't understand why that one call, which shouldn't be a big call, just tore it all open. So we try to get a hold of that before that happens. So we put a proposal in after the Tree of Life when we saw the dogs, and they agreed to it. The chief agreed to getting a dog for our team, and he's used for those kind of critical incidents, but also for community work. We take him to the communities, and right now it's a good thing that, you have a little bit of tension, but they pet the dog and they say, oh, he's okay, and then they talk to us and say, oh my gosh, she's like me, oh, she's a mother, or she's a whatever, and it does help. And the dog is going to be used too. We haven't because of COVID, but if kids or adults need help with testifying or anything like that, or being interviewed, Zane could go in with them and sit and ease them for that.
I know the mayor's office had a dog for a while. River, did these two dogs ever interact?
Yes, they were together. River came to Zane's swearing in. So they met and they became friends. So hopefully we'll get them back together again. They're so cute.
Good to know. Where does the dog live with any particular officer? I don't mean to obsess on the dog, but
no, that's okay. Believe me, it's always the dog before me anyway. But so I'm used to it. He lives with me. He's part of.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
And did you know that going in, that if we get the golden retriever, I'm the one who's going to be taking care of it?
Yes, because we put the job title. It kind of went around kind of who I am, so it worked out. And they had asked, would I be willing to take the dog, if we got him, and I said yes, because we did want them to be. They had to be part of our peer support team because they have to have that training. It's no good to have a dog if you're not knowing what to look for when you're using them. And then a community resource officer, because that gives me the leeway of being able to take them into the community and stuff, and add him on to my regular duties.
All right, one more dog question. What do you train the dog to do?
So he just had his basic obedience training, and then he has, we're going through therapy training right now. So he'll get certified as a therapy dog, basically, even though we won't necessarily use him as a therapy dog, like in hospital settings and stuff. I mean, we've gone into children's with him and everything, but that won't be his main goal. But he will have that training, and just to say he's certified.
I realize that you've been able to go into the office, and a lot of people have not been, but is there something you're just dying to do that you haven't been able to do during COVID?
Oh, the mask. I hate the mask. Oh,
Is that right?
I would just like to be, I hate not being able to read people's lips. Like, I just, or just, I was think about kids that were born during COVID. They don't see people smile out in public, and that kind of thing. They don't work on those cues at all. And I thought that's so, like, I was just thinking of that the other day when I was smiling at a kid, and I realized I had a mask on. So I pulled my mask down real quick to smile at the kid, so they saw somebody smiling at them because it was a baby. So I would like to get back to that.
Yeah, I suppose when you're trying to get to know somebody, if it's a community resource officer or in any situation, if you can't sort of read their whole face, that makes it tough.
Yes. Although I got to put my how I make these facial expressions behind my mask. I got to get rid of those when we get rid of the mask.
Oh, so you've been able to hide your true feelings for a while.
Right. Especially in front of like a sergeant or something. I'll have to work on that.
Yeah, there are advantages and disadvantages, I guess, to the mask thing. Well, I guess the CDC says we don't have to wear them outside anymore unless we're packed like sardines into someplace.
Right. We usually do for the most part, because we're in we go into groups because of community stuff. So I don't know. Hopefully it'll all lift soon, and people can get back to their normal stuff.
Yes, indeed. Well, Officer Vicki, I've taken up enough of your time, but I can't thank you enough for agreeing to do the program.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
And we look forward to being able to get out there soon without a mask and do your stuff to 100% of your ability.
Yes, thank you.
All right, that's it for this episode of City Talk. We will see you next time.